Hi friends, welcome back to our channel. Today, we are going to dive deep into one of the most powerful and beautiful stories in ancient Indian history, the origin of Goddess Lalitha Tripura Sundari. This is not just a story about a battle between good and evil. It's a grand cosmic drama involving the greatest gods, ancient curses, and a sacrifice so intense that it changed the universe forever. Our story begins a long time ago with the famous sage Agastya. He was traveling across South India and was deeply saddened by what he saw. People were becoming selfish, disconnected from their inner selves, and stuck in the constant cycle of pleasure and pain. So he wanted to find a way for ordinary people who couldn't spend their whole lives meditating in caves to find peace and salvation. He approached Lord Haigriva, a manifestation of Lord Vishnu known for his supreme wisdom, and asked him for a solution. Haigriva smiled and told him that while the path of absolute renunciation is hard, there is another way, the path of the Divine Mother. And that is when he began to narrate the incredible life and origin of Lalitha Tripura Sundari. To understand how the goddess was created, we first have to look at a chain of events that started with a simple mistake. Indra, the king of the Devas, was once riding his magnificent elephant known as Airavata. He was at the height of his power and felt quite proud of himself. On his way, he met the hot-tempered sage Durvasa. The sage offered Indra a divine garland that had been given as a blessing from the Divine Mother herself. But Indra, blinded by his own status, took the garland and carefully placed it on the trunk of his elephant. The elephant, not knowing any better, threw it down and trampled it. Then sage Durvasa got furious. To him, this wasn't just a garland, it was a symbol of divine energy. He cursed Indra, saying that because he had insulted the mother's blessing, his prosperity and the strength of the three worlds would vanish. Suddenly, the gods lost their glow. Their kingdoms grew dim and they became weak. This weakness eventually led to the famous churning of the ocean to find the nectar of immortality. During this process, Lord Vishnu even took the form of Mohini, a form of incredible beauty to trick the demons and help the gods. It is said that the power behind Mohini's beauty was actually a spark of the Divine Mother. But the real crisis was yet to come. It involved Shiva and the god of love Manmatha. You see, after Shiva's first wife Sati died, he went into a very deep, intense meditation. Meanwhile, a demon named Tarakasura was terrorizing the universe. He had a boon that only a son of Shiva could kill him. But Shiva was in deep penance and had no interest in marriage. The Devas in desperation sent Manmatha, the god of love, to shoot an arrow of desire at Shiva and wake him up, so he would marry Parvati. When Manmatha fired his flower arrow, Shiva's meditation was disturbed. In a flash of anger, Shiva opened his third eye, and a beam of pure fire shot out, reducing Manmatha to a pile of ashes. The god of love was gone and the universe felt cold and lifeless. Now here is where the origin of our villain begins. One of Shiva's attendants, a skilled worker named Chitrakarma, saw the sacred ashes of the god of love. Out of curiosity or playfulness, he gathered the ashes and shaped them into the form of a young boy. As soon as this doll was brought into Shiva's presence, it actually sprang to life. Lord Brahma, seeing this strange and somewhat shameless creation, shouted out like Banda Banda, which means well done, but also carries a sense of deformity. And so, the demon was named Bhandasura. Bhandasura wasn't just any demon. Because he was born from the ashes of desire and the fire of Shiva's anger, he was incredibly powerful. He did intense penance to please Shiva and received a series of boons that made him almost impossible to beat. His most terrifying power was this: anyone who fought him would immediately lose half of their strength and masculinity, and that strength would be added to Bhandasura. Imagine trying to fight someone who gets stronger the harder you hit him. He was also given a rule over the multiverse for 60,000 years. Bhandasura soon turned into a tyrant. He built a dark city called Sunyaka and started attacking the gods. But he didn't just fight with weapons. He used psychological warfare. He entered the bodies of all living beings in the form of air and dried up their life force, their emotions, and their creative energy. The universe became a stone-like place where no one felt joy or love. The gods were helpless. They couldn't fight him because they would lose half of their strength, and they couldn't ignore him because he was sucking the life out of everything. Facing total destruction, The gods followed the advice of sage Narada and Lord Mahashambhu. They were told that they needed to perform a Maha Yaga, a massive fire sacrifice of total surrender. This wasn't just a normal ritual. The fire pit was created from the dried up bed of the vast ocean. The gods offered the five elements of nature into the fire. But the most dramatic moment came when the gods realized that even these offerings weren't enough. In a final act of absolute devotion, all the devas jumped into the blazing sacrificial fire themselves, sacrificing their own ego and bodies. From the center of this massive fire of consciousness, something miraculous happened. A brilliant disk of light appeared. It is brighter than 1,000 rising suns. And from that light, Goddess Lalitha Tripura Sundari manifested. She was breathtakingly beautiful, described as a 16-year-old girl with a complexion like the red sky at dawn. She had 3 eyes and 4 hands. In her hands, she held symbolic items: a sugarcane bow which represents the mind, 5 flower arrows representing the 5 senses, a noose symbolizing attachment, and a goat symbolizing the control of anger. She didn't look like a typical warrior, but she carried an aura of supreme power that made even the greatest gods bow in awe. To fulfill the requirements of being the queen of the universe, she needed a consort. Lord Shiva took the form of Kameshwara, the most handsome youth imaginable. Then Goddess Lalitha threw a garland into the sky and it landed perfectly around Kameshwara's neck, marking their eternal union. Together, they stayed in a magnificent city called Srinagara, a city of gems and 25 protective walls that represented the layer of reality. But Bhandasura was still out there and he was laughing. When he heard that the gods had sent a woman to fight him, he sent his generals to bring her to him by holding her hair. He didn't realize that he was facing the ultimate power of the universe. The war that followed was epic. Goddess Lalitha didn't fight alone. She created an entire army of Shaktis from her own breath and ornaments. She had great leaders like Mantrini who came from her intellect and Dandini who came from her ego. There was also Sampatkari who led an army of millions of elephants and Ashwarudha who led a cavalry of horses. On the first day of the war, the battlefield turned into a sea of blood. Goddess Lalitha's generals started wiping out Bhandasura's commanders. Bhandasura, seeing his army falling, sent his 30 sons to the front. At this point, a young childlike version of the goddess called Bala Tripura Sundari stepped forward. Even though she looked like a little girl, she fought with the ferocity of a lion and killed all 30 of Bhandasura's sons in a single day. Seeing his sons dead, Bhandasura's brother Vishukra decided to use magic. He created a Vignayantra, a mystical diagram designed to cause obstacles. He threw this into the goddess camp, and suddenly the entire Shakti army was paralyzed. They became lazy, tired, and lost their will to fight. They just wanted to sleep. Only a few leaders were unaffected. Goddess Lalitha looked at her husband Lord Kameshwara, and they shared a loving glance. From that look of divine energy, the Lord Ganesha was born right there on the battlefield. Lord Ganesha immediately sensed the hidden yantra buried deep in the ground. He dug it out with his tusks and crushed it into powder. Then the army woke up instantly, feeling more powerful than ever. Lord Ganesha then went on to defeat a massive elephant demon named Gajasura who was guarding the trap. The war reached its final stage when Bhandasura in total desperation used a weapon called the Sarvasurastra. The weapon brought back the spirits of all the ancient demons that Lord Vishnu had killed in the past, demons like Ravana and Hiranyakashipu. Thousands of these monsters suddenly appeared on the battlefield. Goddess Lalitha simply looked at her hands. From the tips of her 10 fingernails, she projected the 10 incarnations of Lord Vishnu known as the Dasavtaras. Matsya the fish, Kurma the tortoise, Narasimha the man-lion, Rama, Krishna and few more. They all emerged from her nails and wiped out the resurrected demons in minutes. This showed that the entire power used to protect the universe throughout history was just a tiny fraction of power held in the goddess's fingertips. Finally, it was time for the direct shutdown. Goddess Lalitha faced Bhandasura. He tried everything throwing weapons of darkness and fear, but she countered every single one with weapons of light and knowledge. Finally, she took out the Kameshwarastra, the ultimate weapon of desire and consciousness. She fired Kameshwarastra and the city of Shunyaka along with Bhandasura was completely incinerated, turning back into the ashes from which he was born. With the demon gone, the dryness of the universe vanished. The life force returned to everyone. At the request of the gods, Goddess Lalitha used her power to bring Manmatha back to life, but this time in a form that was pure and righteous. This allowed Lord Shiva and Goddess Parvati to finally unite, leading to the birth of their son who would eventually kill the other demon Tarakasura. This Goddess Lalitha Tripura Sundari's origin story tells us that beauty and grace are not weak, they are the highest forms of power. She is called Lalita because she created and runs the entire universe as a Leela, a simple, effortless play. She emerged from the fire of knowledge to show that when we sacrifice our ego, the highest form of consciousness within us awakes to set everything right. I hope you enjoyed this journey through the cosmic origin of the Divine Mother. If you found this story fascinating just like it, please share it with your friends and family and subscribe to our channel and don't forget to press the bell icon for notifications. Thanks for watching. Om Sri Matre Namaha.